Okay. So it's 1:30. So if you don't mind, we have a number of participants, and we're just going to launch our webinar today. I asked for people to put their screens on mute while we go through some of our conversations here, and then we will do a Q&A at the end, which Christine will walk you through. Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darlene Boileau, and I sit on the board of directors at the Ottawa branch of the National Association of Federal Retirees. I'm responsible, along with my colleague Patricia Welch, another board director, for developing the Ottawa branch Healthy Aging programming for our members. Since the fall of 2020, we've organized 9 webinars on different healthy aging topics to promote healthy living. And recognizing that the COVID-19 pandemic is still upon us, the safety, physical health, and mental health of our members and community continue to be a priority. And this is why you're seeing things now electronically and virtually. I would like to take just a second here to encourage everyone to visit the Ottawa Public Health website for the latest information on vaccinations and vaccination appointments. I'm delighted today, on behalf of Ottawa Branch, to welcome you to this virtual session with Christine Forget, founder and CEO of the local business Solva Senior Living. Au nom de la section d'Ottawa, je suis ravie de vous accueillir à cette session virtuelle avec Christine Forget, PDG et fondatrice de l'entreprise locale d'Ottawa Solva. Please note that the webinar will be presented in English, but bilingual participation is always encouraged. J'encourage ceux et celles qui préfèrent à poser vos questions en français, et s'il vous plaît, le faire et on va vous répondre dans la langue de votre choix. I want to give a special welcome to anybody here who is not yet a member of the association. We've seen some names pop up, and so we hope you will be so impressed with the range of topics that we cover and that you will decide to join us as a member. I also want to remind all of our members that you are welcome to invite people to our webinars who might be interested in joining the association. And you can also gift the gift of membership to someone else. Today's webinar is being recorded, and our branch will send you an email after the presentation with instructions on how to access the recording. We invited Christine to present to us today because we want to help educate, engage, and inform our members on the options for aging at home as we grow older and decide what is best for our lifestyles. These are important decisions that we must plan for financially to stay healthy and mentally well in our senior years. Solva offers free counseling and search services for those looking to plan for staying at home or for retirement home options, whether immediately due to a health crisis or further down the road with planning. Its focus is on educating and informing people about our options. Christine has more than 25 years of experience in both retirement homes and long-term care operations and management. She's held many roles across the sectors, from activities coordinator through to corporate regional director for sales at one of North America's most established senior living companies. In 2012, she started Solva Senior Living to help others tap into her knowledge, where she could educate, guide, liaise with seniors and their families in the world of retirement living options. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Christine. She will explain to you how she will handle questions from the group and any other questions that she may have for her presentation. Over to you, Christine.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. This is my favorite topic, and like Darlene said, my job is to just provide you with education and share what I know about the local area and what other people have done. For questions, because there's probably going to be a lot as we go, we'll answer them at the end. So if you want to pose any questions you have in the chat, we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. As well as I'm going to share the slide deck with Darlene. There are links in the slide deck that you might find useful, and we'll make sure that you get those later after the presentation. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll get started. There we go. Okay, and I have to minimize the group. There we go. Okay. Oh, there we go. Why are we're skipping through. We're having a little technical difficulty. There we go. Okay, aging in place. So today what we want to do is we want to talk about aging in place. And what does that look like? I think the first thing we got to ask is, where does aging in place happen? Because the word or the term aging in place is kind of thrown around a lot. And for most of us, we think aging in place is the family homestead. It's, for some of the people in this group, it might be the house that we've raised our children. We've lived there for 40 years. It might be, 1,400 square feet. It could also be 4,000 square feet. Some of the notable things about the family homestead, or I like to call it the big house, because usually if you raised your children, it's a bigger house than perhaps you need right now. But there's some interesting things that happen kind of psychologically that are benefits to the big house. You're part of a community, right? So you know the neighbors, you are a community member. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff, the memories, the emotions, the nostalgia that go along with the big house. And here's the other thing. There's a lot of things that we've accumulated and that live in the big house. So I've met in my travels many seniors that have lived in this house for 40 years, on the same street, same neighbors, maybe seen some changes, but they probably only live or spend their time in a few rooms in the big house, whereas their stuff is in most of the other spaces. So oftentimes people, once they get to a place where they recognize, the big house might be too big, or might be not manageable from a maintenance perspective, or maybe isn't accessible anymore, they look at other options. So aging in place can happen in other types of housing. So some people decide to move to more of a bungalow, or maybe even a bungalow style community. So we have a few of these in Ottawa. They're kind of, in fact, they're hidden in different little corners of Ottawa. So Amberwood Village could be one of them. There's one in Richmond. There's some in Canada. Now these are ownership. These are ownership communities. Oh, I can just hear a little bit of background noise. Just everyone make sure you're on mute. These are ownership communities. So they're bungalow style ownership communities specifically for active adults. So it's a bit of a downsize from the big house. Now we're seeing a few more rental communities, because some people do want carefree living, totally carefree, mortgage free, condo fee free, all of that. So you're going to start to see more of this style coming into rental. You're not going to see this in proper Ottawa because it's just too expensive now to build these, but you'll start to see these in the surrounding areas of Ottawa. One example is the Wellings of Winchester. It is a little bungalow rental community that's coming up on the outskirts of Ottawa. The benefit here, again, is these bungalow communities, usually they're condos, is maintenance-free living. You go to a bungalow, it's accessible, or it should be. And again, you're part of a community. So a lot of us, that's part of the draw, especially the big house. We want to be part of a community, a familiarity. We want to be part of something. And, if we even, let's get a bit of psychology going, you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of those needs is to be part of something. So as we age, being part of a community is going to be very meaningful to you. Or it might, most people it is, but yeah. Where does aging in place happen? Well, it can happen if the bungalow community is just, maybe I don't feel safe in a bungalow because it's ground level. I certainly know that my mom, who is 75, would feel nervous living on a ground level, and she would feel more comfortable in maybe an apartment building or a condo. Again, provides that maintenance-free living, that carefree lock and leave lifestyle. It's, again, could be accessible. you might have to renovate a bathroom, but in theory, there's an elevator, it's all one level, so on. And again, you're part of a community. So a lot of people go from the big house to condos because they are, there are a lot of different condos in Ottawa that have a lot of senior population, and there's a lot of activities and companionship and new friends and new opportunities that come from those communities. Apartments are starting, I don't know if anybody noticed, there's a lot of apartments being built in Ottawa right now. So apartments are something that is becoming more and more desirable, especially for seniors that are looking for, because with a condo, you're still ownership. So there's still maintenance. They're not the lawn and the snow, but you still have to maintain what's in your box. So, the seniors that I've spoken to that have decided, I want that apartment feel or that condo feel, but I'd rather just rent. Because with renting, my dishwasher breaks, I can call the super and he'll come fix it. That's not going to be the case with the condo, right? Now, the other option is living with family. So having an in-law suite. Again, that's going to give you maintenance-free living, definitely a cost savings. There's a multi-generational aspect to it that's beneficial. You definitely have to watch for accessibility, because oftentimes in-law suites, where are they? They're in the basement. So I've met people love, really tight family units that decided, what, mom and dad were living, say in Toronto, we're going to move them to Ottawa and they're going to move into our house. We're going to create their own little apartment in our basement. And what happens, and I've literally met this exact scenario, mom and dad can no longer walk up the stairs. So keep that in mind from an accessibility is one of those things that you can plan in advance when you're in your 50s and 60s. When you're thinking about these renovations, you can start incorporating them. So when you're thinking of in-law suites, keep that in mind. The other factor as we get further into our discussion is, what does your family do all day? Are they at home? Are you getting the companionship and so on? Because if you have you're moving into a home with your family, or you're thinking about moving a loved one into your home, are they going to be alone all day by themselves? Because social stimulation is really important to aging well. And you want to make sure you have those considerations before you make these big changes. The next one is living with family, but not in the basement, in a coach house. Many a buzz have been out there about coach houses. They're kind of like little tiny houses in your yard. For us in Ottawa, probably in your backyard or side yard. They do provide more autonomy, more independence for a loved one if you were thinking about doing that on your property. Again, there's cost savings outside of the renovations, but there's generalized cost savings. And your loved one would have maintenance free because, well, you would do it. So, and there's the multi-generational aspects of that as well. My same comment or my same consideration would be the social opportunity, the social engagement, the social stimulation. The last thing you want to do is, put mom or dad in the backyard and go to work and from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and they never see anybody, because that's, again, I can't caveat enough that social, even if you're one of these people that is maybe a bit more introverted and don't like to be around people, still seeing some people, still having that engagement, whatever that may be, is very important. And then the next option, oh, I skipped it. My slides are having a little bit of an issue here. There we go. Okay. The last options are living with friends. And I actually think this is kind of the gold standard. A lot of us grew up watching the Golden Girls. And when I talk to seniors, and I talk to even people in their late 60s that are thinking, let's start planning the future. This is kind of the picture that a lot of them, picture in their mind or wish for. So again, it is an option, but it's a little bit of a tricky option because you need to remember that whoever owns the house is going to be the landlord. So if you have, say, for example, you have a bungalow, and the bungalows are great because they're very accessible, one level, no stairs, that kind of thing. You have a bungalow and you've got 3 empty rooms and you want to rent it out. You're like, this would be great. I'll have some friends come. You are now the landlord, and you need to make sure that you put some caveats in place to protect your tenants and yourself. There are different companies out there that can help. The one here, for example, is this company here tries to connect people. Now, this company is not per se from Ottawa. They're kind of national wide. I can't find an actual matching company in Ottawa. I'm looking, I always got my ears peaked, but the Golden Girls model in terms of roommate matching has not taken off as far as I can see yet, but I do think it's gonna be something that we'll see in the future for sure. Okay, so the question today is successful aging in place. Wherever that aging in place might be, I think it's important to note that to be successful at aging in place, you have to make a plan. And if you want to stay in the driver's seat of your life, and we all do, then you have to make that plan or start thinking about things before you need to do something. A lot of the people we meet through Solva, they, for whatever reason, perhaps even whether it's a level of ambivalence, whether it's a level of denial, they perhaps waited until the last minute when a decision had to be more urgent than if they would have had planned. So I think it's important for us to understand why people want to move and why people have to move. So if we understand this, then we can make plans to stay. So why people want to move. So there's a group of people that want to move from the big house. I do meet them all the time. They are probably the people I meet lately want that true carefree living. They maintenance free, mortgage free, condo fee free. They lock and leave. I hold no responsibility. In fact, I have met some that even got rid of their car and moved into a car share program because they simply just did not want to own anything anymore. And there is a group of people out there like that. Then there's others that want to be closer to family. They've had, especially with COVID now, we've had some, perspective on, what's important with life and being close to those relationships that certainly have played a role. We've seen people move for that. Some people want to downsize. They look around their big house and they say, oh my gosh, there's stuff everywhere. I just want to be done with it. I met a woman once who very excitedly said to me, I'm moving to this apartment building and I am going to get rid of every single thing I own. My kids have until Sunday to come and pick up what they want. If they don't want it, and I'm going to buy all new. Now that's probably an extreme, but she was totally in control. She was in control of the whole thing and she was excited about that. Some other people have a little bit of a harder time going through those things and knowing what to do, but that's not what this presentation is about. People want to stay. So sometimes people want to stay in the big house because they're familiar with it. It's the homestead. I've heard people say, this is all I've known. My kids won't come and visit, or, my son will not have anywhere to stay. The big home sometimes represents a level of control of one's life. So there's a lot of fear when you make those changes. And some people just I've met lots of people that, oh my God, I don't know what to do with all these things, or I don't even know where to start to downsize. So I'm just not going to do it right now. which is fair enough. I mean, honestly, I would probably feel the same way. So there's about 6 or 7 reasons why people that we meet through Solva, the ones that call us to help them find seniors housing, like retirement residences and long-term care, there's about 6 or 7 reasons. And if we know them in advance, well, we can plan for them before they become more critical, urgent crisis type reasons. So social isolation, I touched on before, that is like your number one. And social isolation is one of those things that you don't see coming, and I'll explain that in a second. Proper nutrition is number 2. So not eating well. I met a woman who said it's too painful to stand to cook her meals. So she wasn't eating because it was difficult to cook. Medication management. I'm sorry, this is not a senior thing. I take one tiny little pill every single day and I forget to take it sometimes. So, but when you're dealing with seniors, you probably have might have more medications for very specific reasons that you really can't forget, because all sorts of different things will happen if you do. Physical, medical, cognitive needs, obviously, those are reasons. Home accessibility are reasons. Having emergency support to keep in your house, not having that is a reason. And then general home maintenance, general support, home maintenance, transportation. So let me walk you through each one, what each one looks like. So social isolation, what can you do? So let's just, before I talk about this, social isolation is one of these things you don't see coming, and COVID is not helping with this whatsoever. It kind of looks like, okay, well, I'm just going to wear my pajamas all day, and all day turns into a couple days, and a couple days turns into a week, and a week turns into 2 weeks, and so on. And then it becomes, okay, I'm going to not get dressed today or this week, and then I didn't shower for a few days, a week, 2 weeks. And then, yeah, just not going to eat. And then a level of withdrawn isolation, depression comes from that, and so on. It's kind of a little bit of a slippery slope that you don't see coming. So putting some things in place in advance is important. And with COVID, I think you guys, this group here, is doing that. You're attending webinars. Despite not having these opportunities to get together and see people, you're still stimulating your mind. You're still joining a group. You're still a member of a community. And that's really, really important. So join a group or a club. Join a senior center. That's a bit difficult these days. Although there are programs like Senior Centers Without Walls. Lots of different groups are doing these webinars. So continue to participate that way. Take a walk and say hi to the neighbors. Go outside. You got to get dressed to go outside. Force yourself to go for a walk every day. And now I think, what did they tell me today? It's going to be 8 degrees today. Get out there. It's sunny. You need the vitamin D. Hire a companion. So, the other points were probably for yourself, but say you're caring for an aging loved one and they're by themselves. Bringing in a companion to spend time with them when you can't, it is a very common and very rewarding and very healthy thing to do. The best one I love is when the companion links up a couple of different areas. The companion cooks a meal, they enjoy a meal together, they're breaking bread, they're having conversation, you're having companionship. If you think back to all of our great memories in life, they're all over, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are sitting at a dining room table and enjoying a meal together with friends and family. So that is one way to do that. Scheduling visits with family, volunteering. Basically, at the end of the day, we all need to have something to look forward to. We all need to have a sense of purpose, and we all need a reason to get up in the morning. And we are being tested right now. COVID is testing us. So make sure that we have things in place, and whether it's you or an aging loved one, you could be 100 and you still need to have that sense of purpose, something to get up for in the morning. Proper nutrition. So again, social isolation I find is like that slippery slope, because once you stop, taking care of yourself, getting dressed, taking a shower, you're probably not going to be a cooking meal for yourself. You're going to pull out the snacks and eat things that are not going to be healthy for you. So cooking for one can be really hard. And it's really important to eat those 3 well-balanced diet meals per day. So some of the things you can do is you could do batch cooking. You can use services, but try to stay away from frozen meals in the frozen section. Those are full of salt, and they're very unhealthy for you. In a pinch, okay, but every day for 3 meals a day, no, that's not good. So other things you can do are services like Heart to Home Meals is a frozen meal service that brings pre-made they have special diets, low sodium, different things, different options, and they'll bring them right to your door. And well, I don't know if they do it with COVID. They used to actually come in and put it in your freezer for you. Meals on Wheels is still running. So that's an option. Before COVID, there was programs called Wheels to Meals, where somebody would pick you up and bring you to a lunch, and you would enjoy that companionship of others over a good meal. Church suppers. Yeah, that makes me sad that that's not happening anymore. Chef prepared meals. So I have seen some seniors bring in a cook once a week who batch cooks turkeys or pot roasts, and they pre-portion them so you have them for the week. Farm Boy does some good meals. Live Fit Food is we all have heard these Hello Fresh boxes and stuff. Well, there's also pre-healthy meals that are delivered. So they're very similar to the Farm Boy type meals, but they're going to probably be a bit less. Red Apron is local. They do fresh meals as well. And then I have a link here to the Ottawa Public Health, as they have meal programs. Now, anything like that would probably not be running because of the COVID, but definitely Meals on Wheels is. Medication management, again, it's important to take your medication as directed. So it's important that before you start forgetting to take them, I don't know about you, I forget to take medications. So I have a dose set. There's also medication reminder calls, and there's all sorts of interesting new products out there. And I want to show you one. So I did some links here, and this one here I find to be very interesting. And if I click on it, I wonder if I'm going to lose the whole presentation. I'll wait till the end to click on it. So
wallboard or something.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear somebody. If you want to press mute again, that'd be great. Okay. So these products here will vocally remind you to take medication. The one that I think is really interesting is it's kind of a dose set that a loved one or you can do, and it has a variety of different things that will remind you to take it, and it locks up the medication until it's time to take it, and then it'll flash and it'll text your family if you haven't taken it. It's kind of neat, and the whole premise here is to keep seniors aging in place, right? One of the reasons why sometimes seniors are looking at retirement residences to help them with the meals and the medication and stuff like that. So if you can bring in services for meals, and you can provide, come up with some solutions to help with medication, you might be able to stay in place independently on your own a little bit longer. So medical, physical, cognitive needs. There's all sorts of help in the community, from private pay to funded to subsidized. Some of the community supports we have here, which I, again, have put all the links in. The LHIN, which used to be formerly known as CCAC, Community Care Access, they will provide some funded home support services. So those services could be things like for personal care, like help taking a bath and so on and so forth. They don't typically come in to do homemaking, so like house cleaning or meal preparation or laundry. They really take care of the physical needs of the client. However, they do sometimes have some respite services to provide some respite to the caregiver that might be caring for a loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's. And but that would be your first go-to in terms of any sort of home support services. Go to the LHIN. Actually, we're called the Champlain LHIN. Our region is Champlain, and you go to the LHIN and ask them to provide some support. There's also, I'm going to skip over PCO here. CSS is called Community Support Services. So we all have these senior centers in in different areas of Ottawa. You also have community health centers like Southeast Ottawa Community Health Center, or the Pinecrest Queensway Community Health Center. They have those organizations have something called community support services for seniors. That means they would have some sort of either funded or subsidized services like homemaking, snow removal, transportation services, and so on. Kicker here is usually there's wait lists. So if you're thinking that you might want some transportation, like get on the list for some affordable transportation services, then you gotta start talking to those guys early and get on that list. PCO is called Primary Care Outreach. I'm sorry, I only gave you the acronym, the short forms here. I'll definitely make that fix when I send out the slide deck. The primary care outreach team is a group of nurses, and they're located in the same organizations as the community support services workers. And they go and check on more vulnerable seniors, and they more like help advocate for them and so on and so forth. The VIP stands for Veterans Independence Program. And if you're a veteran, you might qualify. I hope you know about this. They provide services like housekeeping or they even some home accessibility, like putting in grab bars and stuff like that. So it's a great program to help seniors age in place through the Veterans Affairs. Home accessibility is another area that you have to look at early. And you like, honestly, if you're thinking of a renovation, you should be thinking about how that renovation is going to impact you down the road. And there's lots of beautiful design that can be done with accessibility in mind. So 75% of all falls happen at home. I think we all know this. So proactively plan. Extra railings. One of the best tips or the most common tips that I see from an occupational therapist is they put 2 railings on both sides of the staircase going downstairs or wherever you can. Outside railings, looking at things like that. Change steep stairwells. So some of the older homes have stairwells that are quite staircases that are quite steep. So making the threads a bit wider and making them, well, bringing them up to code. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. Bring the laundry room upstairs, because then the need to go down those stairs isn't as prevalent. And frankly, that having laundry upstairs is sometimes very convenient. I'd enjoy it if I had it. Make sure your main level has a bathroom. So if anything ever happened to you that you couldn't, say hip, knee, many people from 40 to 90 are getting hips and knees. Having a main level bathroom where you can set up kind of a little respite area on your main floor would be very, very beneficial. Obviously, grab bars in the bathroom. There's all sorts of new products out there that look very nice and would add to your resale value to your home, but also protect you from a fall. Anti-slip tiles are another one. There's some really great home audit books out there. I think CMHC produced something about auditing your house for accessibility and safety. If you go to their website, and I'll add their link in here, you should be able to find it, because they're going to tell you to look at area rugs, lighting, thresholds, slip hazards, heated walkways. Oh my God, we just did our front and we did it in a ramp. And after the fact, after we did it the first winter, somebody said, we should have heated this, and then we would have never had ice on it. And I was like, oh, that would have been really, really smart. Extra railings outside and so on. Now, what happens if you're living alone and something happens to you? My neighbor, who is 90, my down the street neighbor who is 90, he told me one summer, yeah, I had a fall, fell on the ground, was on the ground for 3 days before somebody found me. And we hear those stories. They're actually, unfortunately, common stories. And so those personal alerts are they're common for a reason. The kicker is I've met too many seniors that unfortunately don't wear them. So they have them in the house. They might have them on the end of the bed or on a walker, but I can tell you right now that you're going to fall not wearing it if you're not wearing it. The other one is to have daily, like a coordinated check-in with your family and friends. Today, Monday, I check in, tomorrow, somebody else checks in, coordinate those check-ins. So everybody knows when. Daily telephone calls. So a lot of those CSS programs that I was telling you about at the senior centers, they actually have something called the telephone assurance program, where somebody calls you every day and has a 15-20 minute chat just to do a check-in to make sure everything's okay. And then you have generalized support. So the day-to-day requirements of managing a home. So, how are you going to take out the garbage? Who's going to do the lawn? Who's going to shovel the snow? And yes, I've met a lot of seniors, including family members that who are 80 and continue to push the boundaries of what is safe. And God love them, but shoveling ice and snow is definitely a risk for variety of things, from falls to heart to different things like that you want to be safe, and maybe getting a snow removal it's time to get the snow removal company, or call the senior center and coordinate their snow removal services, which are subsidized. What I would suggest is you have on your speed dial, maybe on your fridge or wherever you keep your contacts, have a maintenance man. Link up with one. Somebody that can come, maybe a neighborhood person who could come and take out the leaves from the eaves troughs. Somebody who could, pull the weeds out of your garden or take your garbage out. There's many kids in the neighborhood. I know my son in particular, he goes over across the street and shovels the laneway for my 80-year-old neighbor, who, if he doesn't get there, it's actually kind of funny. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, he's a teenager, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, if he's not fast enough, she'll get out there and do it. And we're like, Kevin, she's shoveling the line. Garbage removal, getting, some of those cans are heavy, and you want to be safe about that. Transportation services are another one. So getting on those lists they're a godsend when you can get your name on those lists, because you just call up the agency and they send a driver to pick you up and take you to your appointments. And especially when you're dealing with parking lots at hospitals and stuff like that, getting the ride and getting the pickup is beneficial. And then I guess the other part of this is having a really good plan. So you need to, that this is aging in place. So that's plan A. It's everybody's plan A. Everybody wants to age in place, whether it's the big house, whether it's an apartment. They want to live independently on their own, doing it their way. For most of us, forever. That's our plan. But it's important to also have a plan B and a plan C. What is your contingency plan? Unfortunately, we can't predict the future. And so the future could involve memory, could involve physical needs. If you had to move to a retirement residence or a long-term care home, which one would you like to go? So I implore everybody to make those kind of plans and do the research in advance, so that way it's not something that you have to decide in crisis, because making those decisions in crisis are, you never really have all the options in front of you, unfortunately. If I am not around, so for the caregivers, and I've met lots of caregivers who are caring for individuals with a cognitive impairment, whether it be their wife or husband. If I'm not around, what will happen to my spouse? This is a big one. So I have a friend who is 80, who I've known for a few years, and his wife has advancing dementia, and it has advanced to a place where it's becoming very challenging for him. He doesn't have a plan for what if something happened to him today. He doesn't have anything. He kind of in his head knows what he thinks would happen, but he hasn't mapped it out or talked to anybody about, what would be the next step on this. And then, like I said, if you have to choose a long-term care facility, because retirement homes and long-term care facilities are different, which one would you choose? The thing about long-term care, and that's not what this session's about, but the thing about long-term care that I think everybody knows, and if you don't, I'm going to tell you, there's a big waiting list for long-term care. So, and I always tell people, when it comes to long-term care, especially, let's use my friend here with his wife that he cares for. If you're not on the list for long-term care and you wait until you need long-term care, you're now starting from scratch. So you have to plan in advance. So Solva does something. So my organization and my team, so it's not just me, it's a number of people, including Caroline Inman and Rachel Borzecki. These are people that you might hear or talk to when calling Solva. And what we do is essentially this. We just have these kind of conversations, and we help link you up to the people and services that you need to know. So we have a concierge service that helps people, navigate aging in place. So you don't know who to call. We'll link you into we'll give you the links for the LHIN, or we'll connect you to the CSS in your area. We can help you find the products and devices and so on. And that's pretty much it for the presentation.